The Artist's Struggle. Marcus Thompson was a dreamer. His love for art began when he was a child, drawing on the walls of his grandmother's small house with bits of charcoal he found near the fireplace. Despite growing up in a working-class neighborhood plagued by poverty and social challenges, Marcus found solace in creating art. His sketches depicted scenes of hope, resilience, and beauty, often inspired by the people and places in his life. In his early 20s, Marcus moved to the bustling city, determined to make a name for himself. He worked tirelessly during the day as a waiter in a local diner, saving every penny he could. At night, he transformed his tiny, cluttered apartment into a studio, pouring his heart and soul onto canvases. His work was bold, vibrant, and deeply emotional, a reflection of his experiences and identity as a Black man navigating a world often riddled with prejudice. Despite his undeniable talent, Marcus faced systemic barriers that seemed impossible to overcome. The art world, with its elitist gatekeepers and rigid norms, rarely opened its doors to someone like him. He applied to countless galleries, only to receive polite rejections or, worse, no response at all. He often felt invisible, his art dismissed before it was even given a chance to be seen. One fateful day, Marcus decided to visit an exclusive art gallery owned by Mr. James Hastings, a well-known figure in the city's art scene. Hastings was infamous for his haughty demeanor and preference for established artists with prestigious backgrounds. Clutching a portfolio of his best work, Marcus walked into the gallery with equal parts hope and trepidation. The gallery was immaculate, its white walls adorned with abstract paintings that screamed wealth and exclusivity. Hastings, a tall man with silver hair and an air of superiority, barely glanced at Marcus as he introduced himself. When Marcus shyly asked if Hastings would review his portfolio, the gallery owner let out a chuckle that echoed through the room. "Let me guess," Hastings sneered, "another amateur thinking he's the next Basquiat? I don't have time for this." Undeterred, Marcus opened his portfolio and laid out several pieces on a nearby table. The vibrant colors and intricate details of his work told stories of struggle and triumph, but Hastings dismissed them with a wave of his hand. "These are pedestrian at best," Hastings said coldly. "You clearly have no formal training. Your work lacks sophistication, and, frankly, it's not marketable." Marcus's heart sank as Hastings continued to mock him, pointing out supposed flaws in his technique. Other gallery visitors stopped to watch the exchange, some smirking in agreement with Hastings, while others looked on with pity. Humiliated but determined not to let the moment break him, Marcus gathered his work and left the gallery. That night, Marcus sat in his apartment, staring at the rejected pieces. For a brief moment, doubt crept in. Maybe Hastings was right. Maybe his art wasn't good enough. But as he reflected on his journey, he realized that his art wasn't about fitting into someone else's mold, it was about expressing his truth and connecting with people who understood his vision. Fueled by a renewed sense of purpose, Marcus decided to take a different approach. If the traditional art world wouldn't accept him, he would find another way to share his work. Little did he know, this decked the turning point. After the humiliating encounter at Mr. Hastings' gallery, Marcus decided to showcase his art directly to the people. He signed up for a local street fair that attracted a diverse crowd of art enthusiasts, collectors, and casual passers-by. The fair was bustling with energy, the air filled with music, laughter, and the smell of food from nearby vendors. Marcus set up a modest booth with his paintings displayed on easels and crates, each piece radiating the passion and resilience he poured into it. As the day progressed, people stopped by his booth, drawn by the vibrant colors and powerful storytelling in his work. Some purchased small pieces, while others praised his talent and encouraged him to keep creating. Among the crowd was a man in a tailored suit who lingered at Marcus's booth longer than most. He examined each piece carefully, his expression shifting between curiosity and admiration. "This is extraordinary," the man said finally, introducing himself as Daniel Grant, a private art collector and investor. "Your work has a raw, emotional power that's hard to come by. I'd like to purchase a few pieces." Marcus was stunned. Daniel's interest wasn't just casual, he seemed genuinely moved by the art. He bought 3 of Marcus's larger paintings for a substantial sum, leaving Marcus both elated and curious about what this encounter might lead to. A week later, Marcus received an email from Daniel, who had shared photos of Marcus's paintings on his social media accounts. The posts went viral, with thousands of likes, shares, and comments praising Marcus's talent. The exposure caught the attention of art influencers and bloggers, who began writing about Marcus as a promising new voice in contemporary art. His follower count on social media skyrocketed, and his inbox was flooded with inquiries from buyers and galleries eager to collaborate. As his popularity grew, Marcus's art began to command higher prices. Critics who had once ignored him started to take notice, applauding the emotional depth and cultural significance of his work. Marcus was invited to exhibit at independent galleries and art shows, where his pieces often sold out within hours. His journey from obscurity to recognition was meteoric, but it was grounded in the authenticity and passion that had always defined his art. Ishin would set him on a path to success beyond his wildest dreams. Meanwhile, Mr. Hastings remained oblivious to Marcus's rising fame. The gallery owner continued to curate exhibitions featuring established artists, unaware that a cultural phenomenon was unfolding just beyond his insulated world. The contrast was striking. While Hastings clung to outdated notions of what art should be, Marcus was redefining it, connecting with a new generation of collectors and enthusiasts who valued innovation and authenticity over pedigree. As Marcus's career blossomed, he began to learn about the true value of his art. Pieces he had once sold for a few $100s were now worth tens of thousands, with some collectors reselling his earlier works for even more. Marcus was both humbled and inspired by this shift, realizing that his art had the power to transcend monetary value and create meaningful connections with people. With his newfound success, Marcus started planning a bold move. He wanted to do more than just sell his art. He wanted to create a platform for other underrepresented artists who, like him, had been overlooked by traditional gatekeepers. He began sketching out ideas for his own gallery, envisioning a space that celebrated diversity, innovation, and storytelling. As Marcus worked on this dream, he couldn't help but think of Mr. Hastings. The memory of that fateful encounter still stung, but it also fueled his determination. Marcus decided that when the time was right, he would return to Hastings' gallery, not as a struggling artist seeking validation, but as a confident entrepreneur and visionary ready to shake up the art world. Revenge through success. Marcus Thompson's rise to prominence in the art world was nothing short of spectacular. His name was now synonymous with authenticity and emotional depth, and his work had not only earned critical acclaim but also amassed a loyal following. With his confidence bolstered and his finances secure, Marcus was ready to execute the next step in his journey, one that would bring him full circle. For months, Marcus had been quietly exploring the idea of acquiring an art gallery. He envisioned a space where emerging artists from underrepresented backgrounds could showcase their talent without fear of rejection or prejudice. When the opportunity arose to purchase Mr. Hastings' gallery, Marcus couldn't resist. It was poetic justice, a chance to reclaim the space where he had once been humiliated. Dressed in a sharp suit and accompanied by his lawyer, Marcus walked into the gallery one crisp morning. The space looked the same as it had on that fateful day. Pristine white walls, expensive artwork, and an air of exclusivity. Mr. Hastings stood behind the counter, looking as haughty as ever. He barely glanced up as Marcus entered, clearly preoccupied with a phone call. When Hastings finally turned his attention to Marcus, his expression betrayed no recognition. To him, Marcus was just another potential investor. Marcus suppressed a grin as he introduced himself under an alias, explaining that he was interested in purchasing the gallery. "Well," Hastings said, his tone dripping with condescension, "this is one of the most prestigious galleries in the city. We cater to a very exclusive clientele. Are you sure this is the right investment for you?" Marcus feigned interest in the artwork on display, masking his irritation at Hastings' thinly veiled prejudice. The gallery owner clearly didn't see Marcus as a serious contender, let alone someone who could afford such a purchase. Hastings spoke at length about the gallery's reputation, boasting about its contributions to the art world while downplaying its declining relevance in a rapidly changing market. As the conversation progressed, Hastings became increasingly dismissive. He assumed Marcus was a wealthy but naive investor, out of his depth in the world of fine art. Marcus, however, remained calm and composed, carefully guiding the discussion toward a negotiation. His lawyer presented the offer, which was significantly above the gallery's market value, an intentional move to ensure Hastings would accept without hesitation. The deal was finalized within days, with Hastings oblivious to the identity of his buyer. Marcus chose the day of the announcement to reveal the truth. The gallery was filled with reporters and artists as Hastings stood at the podium, prepared to hand over ownership. He looked smug, clearly proud of what he believed was a lucrative exit. When it was time for Marcus to step forward, Hastings froze, his face paling as he finally recognized the man standing before him. "You." Hastings stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're the—" "Yes, Mr. Hastings," Marcus said with a smile that was both polite and triumphant. "I'm the artist you dismissed not too long ago. But today, I'm here not as an artist, but as the new owner of this gallery." The room fell silent as the weight of Marcus's words sank in. Hastings looked as if he'd been punched in the stomach, his arrogance crumbling in the face of his mistake. The reporters began scribbling furiously, and whispers rippled through the crowd. Marcus stepped up to the podium, addressing the room with poise. "This gallery will no longer be a gatekeeper of exclusion. Instead, it will become a space where all artists, regardless of their background, can share their stories and their talent. Art is meant to connect us, not divide us." The audience erupted into applause as Hastings slinked away, humiliated and regretful. Marcus's success was not just a personal victory but a statement against the biases and prejudices that had long plagued the art world. That evening, Marcus walked through the gallery, envisioning its transformation. The space no longer felt cold or unwelcoming, it was his now, a blank canvas for a brighter, more inclusive future, transforming the gallery. With the keys to the gallery in his hands, Marcus wasted no time in setting his vision into motion. The first step was a complete rebranding. The gallery, once named after Mr. Hastings, was now called the Canvas of Voices, a name chosen to symbolize the diverse stories and perspectives it would showcase. Marcus brought in a team of like-minded curators, designers, and artists to help him transform the space into a haven for creativity, inclusion, and cultural dialogue. Supporting underrepresented artists. Marcus made it his mission to seek out talented artists who, like him, had been overlooked by the traditional art world. He visited street fairs, community centers, and art programs in underserved neighborhoods, inviting promising artists to showcase their work at the gallery. The stories of these artists were as powerful as their creations: single mothers painting to heal from trauma, young immigrants capturing the beauty of their heritage, and activists using art as a medium for change. One of the first artists featured was Amara, a self-taught sculptor whose work reflected the struggles and resilience of Black women. Amara had been rejected by multiple galleries due to her lack of formal training, but Marcus saw the brilliance in her work. Her debut exhibition at the Canvas of Voices was a massive success, drawing crowds and sparking important conversations about representation in art. Then there was Diego, a muralist who used his art to tell stories of his community's fight against gentrification. Through the gallery, Diego not only gained recognition but also secured funding to create large-scale public art installations, giving his community a voice that couldn't be ignored. A hub for diverse talent and social justice. Under Marcus's leadership, the Canvas of Voices became more than just a gallery, it was a movement. The space hosted workshops, panel discussions, and networking events aimed at empowering underrepresented artists. Marcus partnered with local schools to offer art programs for kids, ensuring that the next generation had access to the resources he never did. The gallery also became a platform for social justice initiatives. One notable event was a fundraiser for criminal justice reform, featuring artwork from formerly incarcerated artists. The event raised thousands of dollars and brought attention to the intersection of art and activism. Critics, collectors, and the community alike praised the gallery's mission. What was once a cold, exclusive space now buzzed with energy and purpose. Marcus's story became a source of inspiration, a testament to perseverance and the power of using success to uplift others. Community reactions. The response from the community was overwhelmingly positive. Local artists and activists hailed Marcus as a trailblazer, someone who had broken down barriers and paved the way for others. Families who visited the gallery expressed gratitude for the opportunity to see art that reflected their own experiences and struggles. Even the media took notice. Articles were written about Marcus's transformation of the gallery, highlighting his efforts to democratize the art world. Interviews and documentaries featured his journey, solidifying his reputation as not just an artist but a change-maker. Confronting Mr. Hastings. Despite his success, Marcus couldn't ignore the lingering memory of his encounter with Mr. Hastings. He knew that true closure would require a final conversation. One evening, he reached out to Hastings, inviting him to visit the gallery under its new ownership. Hastings arrived reluctantly, his once confident demeanor subdued. The gallery was unrecognizable, its walls now adorned with vibrant, provocative pieces from artists of all backgrounds. The diversity of the art, and the crowd, stood in stark contrast to the exclusivity Hastings had cultivated. "Marcus," Hastings began awkwardly, "I suppose congratulations are in order." Marcus smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Hastings. I hope you can see the potential this gallery always had, beyond the narrow lens you viewed it through." Hastings shifted uncomfortably. I misjudged you. Your work, your vision, it's clear I was wrong." For a moment, Marcus considered delivering a scathing response, but he realized he had already won. His success and the gallery's transformation were the ultimate rebuttal to Hastings' prejudice. Instead, he offered a measured reply. "We all make mistakes," Marcus said. "The difference is what we learn from them. I hope the space shows you what art can truly be when it reflects everyone, not just a select few." Hastings nodded, his face etched with regret. He left the gallery soon after, his presence barely noticed amidst the buzz of the thriving space. For Marcus, the encounter brought closure, not from Hastings' apology, but from knowing he had turned a painful experience into a powerful triumph. As Marcus stood in the gallery that night, watching visitors marvel at the art and engage in meaningful conversations, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The Campus of Voices was more than a gallery, it was a testament to resilience, creativity, and the transformative power of art. Marcus's journey had come full circle, and he was just getting started. Legacy of change. Marcus Thompson's journey from a struggling artist to a trailblazing gallery owner had not only transformed his life, but also reshaped the art world. Over the years, the Campus of Voices gained international acclaim, becoming synonymous with diversity, empowerment, and innovation. What started as a mission to create space for underrepresented artists had blossomed into a movement that inspired countless others to challenge the status quo. International acclaim. The gallery's impact rippled across the globe. Major publications like the New York Times, The Guardian, and Artforum ran feature stories on Marcus's vision and the gallery's unique approach. The Campus of Voices was invited to participate in prestigious art fairs in Paris, Tokyo, and Johannesburg, showcasing work from artists who had once been dismissed by traditional galleries. Critics marveled at the richness of the art displayed, praising its emotional depth and cultural relevance. More importantly, the gallery resonated with everyday people who had long felt excluded from the art world. Visitors from all walks of life shared stories of how the gallery had inspired them, deepening its reputation as a space of connection and transformation. Profiles of artists uplifted. The true measure of the Campus of Voices' success lay in the stories of the artists it supported. Each artist who passed through its doors became a part of its legacy. Amara, the sculptor, saw her work featured in a landmark exhibition at the Smithsonian. Her intricate pieces, which celebrated the resilience of Black women, were acquired by major museums and private collectors around the world. Amara credited Marcus for giving her the confidence to believe in her talent. Diego, the muralist, went on to paint monumental public art in cities from Los Angeles to Mexico City. His murals became symbols of resistance and hope, and he used his platform to mentor young artists in his community. Li Wei, a queer Chinese painter, shared her vibrant and surreal pieces in galleries worldwide. Marcus had discovered her at a small community art event, recognizing her brilliance despite her modest beginnings. Through the gallery, Li Wei gained the visibility and validation she needed to thrive. Sophia, a formerly incarcerated artist, used her paintings to confront the injustices of the criminal justice system. Her first solo show at the Canvas of Voices drew national attention, and her art was later displayed at the United Nations. These artists, and many others, became ambassadors of Marcus's vision, proving that talent could flourish when given the opportunity and support. Reflection on systemic racism in the art world. Marcus often reflected on his journey and the systemic racism he had faced. The art world, long dominated by elitist gatekeepers, had historically excluded voices like his. The rejection he experienced as a young artist wasn't just about his lack of formal training, it was about his identity as a black man challenging the conventions of a space that often prioritized whiteness and privilege. In interviews and public appearances, Marcus spoke candidly about these challenges. He used his platform to call out inequities while championing structural changes. His gallery's success was a testament to what could be achieved when those barriers were dismantled, but he knew the work was far from over. Marcus collaborated with other artists, galleries, and organizations to advocate for more equitable practices, ensuring that his mission extended beyond the walls of the Canvas of Voices. Marcus's speech at a prestigious event. The pinnacle of Marcus's career came when he was invited to deliver the keynote speech at the International Art and Culture Summit, an event attended by the world's most influential figures in art, politics, and philanthropy. Standing on the stage, Marcus gazed at the audience, a mixture of nerves and pride coursing through him. He began with a story, the one that started it all. He recounted his rejection by Mr. Hastings, the nights he spent painting in his tiny apartment, and the moment that changed everything at the street fair. His words were heartfelt and powerful, resonating with artists and visionaries in the crowd. I stand here today not because I was given a chance by the traditional art world, Marcus said, his voice steady but charged with emotion, but because I dared to create my own. My journey is not just mine, it belongs to every artist who was ever told no because they didn't fit the mold, to every dreamer who was dismissed because of where they came from or how they looked. The audience erupted into applause, but Marcus wasn't finished. He spoke about systemic racism in the art world and the broader society, urging those in power to actively work toward inclusion. He highlighted the stories of the artists he had uplifted and the ripple effect of their success. Art has the power to heal, to inspire, and to challenge. But only if we allow all voices to be heard. I challenge each of you to look beyond the familiar, to embrace the unknown, and to use your platforms to create opportunities for those who have been silenced for too long. As Marcus concluded his speech, the crowd gave him a standing ovation. It wasn't just a moment of recognition, it was a call to action, a signal that his message had resonated deeply. A legacy of change. Years later, the Canvas of Voices remained a thriving institution, its walls echoing with stories of triumph and resilience. Marcus continued to mentor young artists and expand his mission, creating scholarships, residency programs, and global partnerships. His journey had come full circle, but his legacy was still unfolding. Marcus often walked through the gallery at night, reflecting on how far he had come. The rejection and humiliation he had once faced seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the joy of knowing he had made a lasting impact. His success wasn't just his own, it belonged to the countless artists who now had a platform to share their voices and change the world. As he stood in the gallery, surrounded by the art that had become his life's work, Marcus smiled. His story was proof that with resilience, vision, and an unwavering belief in oneself, even the most entrenched barriers could be broken.